the proposed gas station. Does everybody have a copy? Okay, so I don't know if you can see the PowerPoint up there.
Yeah.
Is it up there? So we've got two screens. We've got these over here and the front one. So we're going to break this down into a couple pieces. VJ is going to give an overview of the planning items. We're going to throw it over to planners or the developer, talk about some site-specific items, and then answer questions. VJ, why don't I throw it over to you?
Sure, yeah, thank you. I'm VJ Gade, I'm the planning director. I just want to give you a quick overview of what happened, especially for people that are kind of new. So this project went through the May 4th Planning Commission meeting, and they had requested 3 zoning approvals, starting with the plat of subdivision. They wanted to subdivide the 18.25 acre parcel into a 5 acre parcel specifically for the gas station. They requested for a planned unit development because it's a commercial property. The village code requires all commercial properties to go through a planned unit development process, even if they don't need any variances. And in this case, they're not seeking any variances. The third approval they were seeking is a bunch of special uses associated with the gas station, with a mini mart, car wash, drive-through, packaged liquor sales, outdoor sales and storage, and 24-hour operation. So that's the main part of the application. The special uses need to be looked at if they're producing any negative impacts on the properties, and the purpose is to hear those and try to mitigate to the extent they can. So that's the main focus of the application. So beyond that, they agreed to comply with the sign code. They complied with the lighting code, and the engineer is going to get into specifics of the stormwater detention. They're providing a detention to hold 100-year storm, and with all the improvements they're doing, the site is going to hold 1.5 times the amount of floodplain storage after it's completed. So with that, I'm going to turn over to the project engineer to go through the site specifics.
Thank you, VJ. My name is Brian Hertz from MG2A. Been working on this site for a while now. The first page here.
Can you use the mic so they can hear in the back?
Sure. Okay, I'm Brian Hertz from MG2A. The site is 5 acres, 5.02 acres in area that we've shown on this plan here. This shows the existing conditions with topographic survey. It shows the existing roadways, 159th Street on the south, Couger Road on the west, both of which are under IDOT jurisdiction. Couger Road, IDOT jurisdiction extends up to roughly just south of the gravel driveway that you see here that runs back to the existing farm property. Right, okay. The aerial that's up on the screen there now, it shows some of the distances from our site to I-355, approximately 1,000, 1,200 feet. I haven't heard anything that. But, so we're within 1,000 feet of I-355. The nearest, the development there to the north, that subdivision is roughly the same distance away. We've got a pipeline easement. There's several pipeline easements in the area, but there's a pipeline easement on the south side of that subdivision there. We're about, 700 feet from there? I believe so. Yeah. So we've got some stuff shown there as far as what's in the vicinity. On our topographic survey here, we showed that there's a drainage way that extends from the southeast and kind of flows towards the west. That's how it drains today. There's this dark line that you see here, that is the existing conditions mapped floodplain. So if you pull up a FEMA map and look at it currently, that's what you're going to see is this. And it's an approximate location. As you can see, it doesn't really fit with where the existing study floodplain limits are, which is kind of, because it's a zone A. Zone A's are unstudied. So along with the floodplain, there is a wetland associated with that. The wetland line is this line here that's dashed, and it's got a longer segment and a shorter segment. It's the dashed line that comes back here and continues around. It kind of follows the floodplain line, basically. So part of the project is we have to relocate the floodplain and the wetland. The next few pages here, we show the proposed site layout. We've got a 7,000 square foot convenience store that's centered right in the middle of the property here. We've got car wash facility off to the east. It's a tunnel style drive-through car wash. There's, we've got 12 fueling spots in the front for automobiles. We've got 2-lane truck fueling in the rear. There is 3 access points to serve this site, showing a right in, right out on 159th Street. We've got a right in, right out, and a left in on Couger at this southern entrance on Couger. And then we're showing a right in, left out only with a 18-inch height barrier curb. So that's going to be a barrier to prevent any movements to try to turn left and go north on Couger. So that north entrance is strictly left turn or south turn.
You got it mixed up.
No, it's right in, left out. Right would be in, and then the left would be coming out and going southbound. No one would be able to make this turn right here, coming out and going right. Not a truck. So the next sheet shows the proposed grading. There's
Brian, let's hold off on the meeting.
okay.
I don't know if you have a big layout of the truck traffic exhibit.
I do. Okay, so on this sheet we show the entrances that I described. Then we also show we've got a dash tow design vehicle, a WB-50 tractor trailer, semi truck, which is all the red dashed lines. So that's showing how their movement and their path would fit with the proposed pavement and the location of fueling dispensers and the buildings and the entrances. So the red dashed lines are the semi-truck design vehicle. Like down here, you can see where the truck would come in. This would be for fuel deliveries. The semi would come in, the tanker would deliver the fuel to the underground storage tanks in the front. It would continue its way out and exit onto 159th. Similar to that, we have a right in off 159th. The trucks would come in. They would proceed along the east side of the property and then make the left turn heading west. And they could either bypass the fueling lanes altogether, or they could, pull through the fueling lanes and get their fuel, come back out, exit, and continue southbound on Couger back to the traffic signal. The blue dash lines that you see here, that is like a box truck design vehicle. A box truck is something that's not classified as a truck, so it could be coming from northbound Couger Road heading south. And what we're showing is that it can make the turn off of Couger coming into the site and it fits within the proposed pavement geometrics here. So that's kind of the truck movement plan that we have.
Could you highlight if a truck's coming off 355?
Sure.
How they could work through the site?
Well, they would approach the signalized intersection here. They would want to make a left turn. We don't have any left ins down here. There's going to be a median on 159th once the road improvements are done. So they would have to make a left turn on Couger and come into the site. They're going to, a normal truck is going to bypass this entrance. They don't have any business in this area. So they're going to go to the truck fueling. They make their right turn in, get their fuel, come back out, and exit onto 159th. Similarly, trucks that make a left turn on Couger Road and realize that it's a posted no truck route, they're going to be able to turn into the site and they could continue on. They could get fuel, or they could bypass the fuel and go right by, come back out to 159th, get back on the truck route.
Could you also highlight the signage that was talked about?
Yes. Right. If you look at the screen, on the television screen, we're showing a traffic signal pole with a mast arm, and then there'd be a posted no truck route sign located just north of the project. So just north of the gravel driveway is where we're proposing to locate that sign that would alert semi-truck drivers that, hey, this is a no truck route. If I'm northbound on Couger, they're going to see that sign and they're going to have the opportunity to exit through this project. I mean, this is it's providing a solution really for the trucks to safely turn around, because they're just going to drive through the site, come back out, go to 159th, and be on their way.
Can I have a question? Can I ask a question? You have the trucks coming from the west, turn left into that, onto Couger and go in, and then turn right, okay, go around, go right. What about the trucks that are heading? Can they go out that back entrance? You can't have a truck heading east and then coming out heading west. There has to be, if they're coming in for gas, there has to be a way for them to continue on their route east.
So you're asking how would a truck come in here, get fuel, and then come back to the east?
Can they come out
or to the
that way
west?
where the cars come out?
Yeah, they would come in here and turn right. I'm not sure I'm following her question. Yeah, they would come through here and then come back out to the right in, right out, and exit to go back west.
No, but these trucks are traveling from the west to the east. They're stopping for gas.
Right.
They don't want to go back where they came from. They have stuff that they have to put on the east.
Oh, so you're saying how would they
How would they
continue
go back
east?
east?
Right. Okay. The truck would come in, they would make their way north, they would come in, they would get their fuel. Then there's sufficient area down here for a truck to make the full turn. You can see this little bump out in the corner. So they would have to make a U-turn there basically, come back out.
But there's room where the cars come out for the trucks to come out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Good question.
Go back east, yeah.
So that's basically the traffic patterns. Is there anything else we wanted to touch on with traffic?
I'm sure there's going to be more traffic questions. Why don't we go through a couple more slides of the site plan? And we could double back, because I think that's going to be a main driver. We could double back on that. So, is that the drainage one, Vijay?
The site plan.
Site plan.
Okay, yeah, I think we're ready with the drainage. Got it there. Yeah, I think we're ready for drainage. All right, so this is the proposed grading plan. It shows how we're providing stormwater detention on the property. The stormwater detention pond would be located on the north side of the property. There is, let's see, we've got the compensatory storage / floodplain mitigation area down here on the south end. So down here, there's an existing box culvert that crosses 159th Street. That is feeding the floodplain area currently. So there's about 60 or 70 acres that's upstream that drains to that box culvert down here on 159th Street. The proposal is to provide this rerouting of the floodplain and wetland area that currently crosses through about right here. You can see some of the dashed lines still showing where that is in relation to all this. The compensatory storage area is required to provide 1.5 times of the floodplain volume that's existing on the property. So the way we figured that out is we have to use our topographic survey, and we cut cross sections through in several locations, and then we figure out how much volume is contained in that floodplain area. And then the same volume needs to be provided, only 1.5 times as much in the compensatory storage area down here. So with that, there's going to be another drainage culvert. It's going to be a box culvert, 24 by 54, that would carry water from this compensatory storage area across the south entrance into a water quality best management practice area that would provide some sediment. It's going to improve sediment. It's going to let the water sit there and promote some infiltration, and then once it finds its way out, there's an existing storm sewer pipe that crosses Couger Road now, which is what that will discharge to. So now that we've got the floodplain and the compensatory storage area down here, we have to route all of our site, pavement, buildings, all the improved areas to the detention pond. So we've got 1.5 times as much storage for the floodplain, and then we're also providing storage for the detention. That's what's required by ordinance, and we're going to meet those requirements.
I have a question. You talked about going under Couger Road into a storm sewer, and then where does it go?
There's an in section right to the west side of Couger Road, a 30-inch concrete in section that discharges to a waterway.
Across my property.
Right.
And that's not exactly.
Okay. Well, it exists there today.
Pardon me?
It exists there today.
That's right, but you don't. And what I'm concerned about is your 3 acres of concrete dumping across my property.
Providing stormwater detention is going to reduce the flow rates on your property.
You talked about the amount of water that's being held in that particular piece of property right there, in the low spot. What about the extra water for all the concrete that's going to be there? Because you have to figure more.
That's right.
Because that land is going to hold, like sponge, a certain amount of water, but also you've got runoff. So what are you doing to compensate for that?
That's exactly what the stormwater detention pond does. It handles the additional runoff. I mean, that's the purpose of stormwater detention ordinances.
Then where does it go? After that, it holds it, but then it
Yes.
rains again, where does it go?
It's going to discharge to a control structure that we have here on the west end of the detention pond. The control structure is going to have most of the time they have a very small hole in there. So you've got a 12-inch pipe that you're going to see on the outside of it here. But in the restrictor manhole is what it's called, they have a wall that they build in there, vertical wall. And then in that wall, we have to provide 2 openings, and the openings are usually about 2 to 3 inches in size. So that's where that water's flowing out of. It's choking it down. Pardon me?
And then where does it go?
Then it continues through the storm sewer here to this water quality BMP area, which discharges to that storm sewer, which discharges to your waterway.
Exactly. Now, what am I supposed to think about that?
From my standpoint, it's an improvement.
Oh, really?
It is.
For you, maybe?
From a stormwater standpoint, it's an improvement.
I don't see how.
What's the depth of that pond?
This here is most likely going to be a wetland bottom type of pond. So,
Depth?
yeah, the depth is going to be like 6 inches.
6 inches?
In it, the depth, right. So from the invert or the bottom of the pond, we're going to have a 6-inch depth, and it's going to have wetland bottom in it. But
You're gonna have a
then,
mosquito factory.
hold on. It's from that outlet elevation going up, it's going to be rough. Well, what do we got here? High water 742.8. So we're building 5.5 feet roughly. 5.5 feet of bounce is what they call it. So from the normal water to the maximum it can be is 5.5
This
feet.
is of concern here. What if you hit sand, gravel, rock? Because just across the road where Pat's talking about, the ditch has exposed glacial till there. Rock, sand, boulders. What if you dig that pond, you find that rock, sand, gravel, and you got all these people on Shady Lane where that water is going to come down through following the rock, sand, gravel, and then they wake up and here's a gusher coming out their wall of their house. What about that?
Actually, these detention areas, they're promoting infiltration now. So I mean, that's basically what you're describing is infiltration.
I'm talking about the percolation through
That's right.
the sand, gravel, because you know, if you look at the ditch she's talking about, you've got glacial till there. And it could easily follow that path right down and destroy those homes in Shady Lane, if that happens.
Yeah, that's what infiltration is infiltration is returning the water back to the groundwater source. This site is significantly, I'm thinking, I don't have the topo of what the grades are to the north, but I mean, we're talking about like 30 feet in surface elevation change from ground surface to
We're
there.
talking 80 feet from the hill.
From the hill, yeah.
To Fenneman Creek.
Right.
Would you like a bucket of water 80 foot over your head? You're hanging water over these people's head.
That's just, that happens. There is, that's.
Destroy a whole neighborhood.
No, if you drive down the road, you're gonna find a development that has a stormwater detention pond on it that's probably 80 feet above us now.
Well, ask the people in Pebble Creek about all the stormwater they've had. They had stormwater detention ponds too, and homes flooded out several years ago, and nothing was done about it. So you're talking about, like you said, hanging a pond 80 feet above our heads, washing down, and even perking into the ground. You're still adding a significant amount of water because you've got all that hardscape. It's got to go somewhere. Right now, you've got a 17-acre parcel that it can soak into. Now you're reducing it to 5, then you're reducing it to an even smaller amount because you're putting it into a smaller area. You put that much water into a smaller area, you got more perk. So you're going to get water down there. And we already get water flowing down that hill, down into the street. So you're going to get even more. Plus, you're going to be adding that much more water to Fenneman Creek.
That's the purpose of our outlet, is to let the water get out.
And then what about all the chemicals on the hardscape to wash through that?
Right. The hardscape water is restricted. That's
The
the
chemicals
purpose
don't go
of
into
the
the ground
outlet.
then? The chemicals and the oil and gas and fuel doesn't go into the ground then because it's restricted at that pond?
No. We're not having chemicals and oil and gas go into our detention pond.
Where's it going to go?
We have to do a few things to to handle that situation. There's storm sewers all over the site. That's all these dashed lines that have little arcs on them there, and the black squares are curb inlets. So we're picking up all that water and we're sending it in the storm sewer to these locations here. There's 1, 2, 3, there's 3 locations there at minimum that are gonna have catch basins. Catch basins have depth that they build in the structure, concrete structure. You know, so there's 3 feet roughly below the bottom of the pipe outlet that takes the water to the detention pond. So that area there is a collection or a containment area. There's also going to be snouts, they call them, that go on the upstream side of the pipe, you know, to close off that opening before it discharges into the detention pond. So it's an oil and grit separator, is what it is. So that the materials have to settle down into the bottom of the catch basin before they discharge to the pond.
So those catch basins will never fill all the way for that oil to float on top of the water and then make its way into the pond.
Will they ever fill all the way?
Yeah.
But that's what the snout is for.
Right. I mean, if we got a 500-year storm, they might fill all the way, but I mean, anything can happen. Nothing's safe from flooding.
10 feet, over 10 feet deep.
Pardon me?
Vinnie Creek gets over 10 feet deep after a good rain.
Sure.
Okay, you're gonna have all that other discharging down that way?
It's going to discharge to the storm sewer here that discharges to this basin here, which discharges to the storm sewer that discharges to her property.
As I remember, what you said at the last meeting, there's going to be a sewer system. Now you're talking a little different about it dumping out across my property. That's true.
Well, you're talking about a sanitary sewer system?
I think so.
Yeah, that's different. Sanitary sewer system is what would handle the utilities, so the domestic waste from the convenience store, the car wash, water discharge, that would be handled by the sanitary sewer.
Okay, and what are you going to do if the sanitary sewer is not in by the time you're ready to open?
The car wash is going to not operate, to my understanding.
Okay, what about the rest of it? What are you going to do with your sewage? What are you going to do with your toilet waste?
For the convenience store,
Yes.
we have to have a backup plan. I mean, the village is on track, as I understand, to have public sewer and water available by the end of the year.
And what are you going to do if it's not?
It depends on timing. Depends on timing.
But if it's not in?
If it's not,
in, are you going to open? And what are you going to do with all your food?
one option would be a temporary septic field. Septic, seepage field.
Is that awfully expensive?
Hmm?
Is that awfully expensive? And where would you put it?
Most likely just to the north here, on the other side of the gravel drive, I believe. That would be worked out. I mean, that would have to be handled between the developer and the seller of the property.
Okay, it sounds very ambiguous to me.
Yeah. That's, we have to have a backup plan in case the sewer is not there,
Yeah, I think the plan is for, obviously for the storm sewer, not storm sewer, sanitary sewer, those are going out to bid this summer. Most likely July for sanitary. Same with the water. The water is going to be dependent on the state property, the right-of-way. The state most likely won't release the permit until the traffic is shifted to the other side of the street. So the sanitary sewer, we're pretty confident that we put it out to bid, that it'll be operational by the time they need it. The water, which is I think the reason why they proposed not utilizing the car wash until that's ready. You know, we're hoping if it gets released in December, it's a quick run straight down the street. But obviously, no one knows what the weather's going to be like and those kinds of things. So I know a lot of times at previous conversations there was concern with if they had to do a well or a septic system. Either way, we've got gas stations, for instance, in the community that are on both well and septic. And there's one on 100.
I'm down.
I get it. Let me just finish. And so, you know, what the developer is trying to do is work with our plans on the the water and sanitary, and deal with those. When they talk backup, they're talking, you know, they've got to, as a business, figure out, well, what happens if something comes up, whatever that might be. Strike with a contractor, you know, something happens with the state road, whatever, early snow, you know, those kinds of things. So we completely understand your concern from a drainage standpoint. That's part of the reason why we want to have the neighborhood meeting, so we can have more of a dialogue. It's easier to have this kind of conversation than at a formal public meeting. And so, you know, I think from a stormwater standpoint, it's complicated to understand. And correct me if I'm wrong. The way this project needs to be developed, meeting our codes and meeting federal codes, they are not supposed to disperse more water off-site, right? So as it stands right now, you're getting water through field tiles across the road onto your property, correct?
It's not just the field.
Well,
But yes.
right. So generically, right?
Okay,
So
so if this project is supposed to be finished by September, October, is that correct? Do I understand you correctly? September, October opening, is that right?
It depends on.
Projected?
probably
Okay.
later in the year.
November, December. Could you have that sewer system in? You talked about opening it for bids in July or so, sir?
Yes.
How long does it take to actually build it and get it through them? Because you have at least a mile to go, right?
Right, we think the sanitary will be done by the time they operate. The water, it depends on when the state will allow the construction to begin. So it might start, they're telling us they're gonna switch the road over late November, and then we can start on the construction from there.
Who's paying for the sanitary line?
The village is putting the sanitary sewer, the main sanitary sewer in, as well as
And
the
are
water
there
line.
any, so would it be solely to hook up the gas station, or are there gonna be other houses that you're making tie into it?
So we don't have a great plan here on the sanitary, but the sanitary is kind of running along Fittimet Creek, you know, just to visualize that. And then it's going out to Couger Road and then connecting up to the system in Lockport. And so there is a proposal, so we're bringing the sanitary to the site. So back further into the site, the developer would have to bring a line to the stub. It would be theoretically an easement adjacent to the residential neighborhood. And so theoretically, the residents could tap into that system as well.
Excuse me,
Sir.
I've followed that, I've been there. When the Forest Preserve approved the sewer line, it was for the commercial development of 159th Street only. We wanted access. They said it will be for commercial access on 159th. Now that's your agreement with the Forest Preserve, you can check that out. So if you're bringing it through the Forest Preserve, that's the agreement. Now, if you're going to bring it down Couger Road, that makes a whole new ballgame.
It needs to connect up, it's going through the Forest Preserve, and you could probably picture the small Forest Preserve piece that they have that's adjacent to Couger. To connect up to that, it'll need to go down Couger a couple properties, across the street, and then connect up to the main system. That's where it'll connect.
Across of Couger.
Sure.
Comes across a couple of properties, then goes into the Forest Preserve, goes east, goes south, and then it hooks. I think there was 3 inputs that they would service 159. But Couger and Shady Lane was not to get access.
Wasn't aware of that.
So you're going to have to clear that up to the Forest Preserve if you're going to give anybody else access.
We'll verify that. I'm not sure, I think with the forest preserve is where's the lines coming from, and then where are we getting access off? And then once we get access off, I think it's available to be connected up to other properties, whether it's commercial properties or residential properties. But we'll verify that. We'll verify.
I was there, I went through that for years, and that was the thing. They said no. The Forest Preserve kept saying no. Commercial connection for 159th only. Well, that's, in fact,
The line will run right adjacent to the neighborhood, so it makes sense that.
in fact, it wasn't even to extend beyond Gallagher because the Carpet family donated to Lockport for the benefit of the school, the right-of-way, commercial property for the right-of-way to come to Gallagher Road and go to the school. And that agreement between the Carpet family and Lockport was not to have that sanitary line go beyond Gallagher. So if you're breaking that agreement with Lockport and the Carpet family, then somebody should reimburse the Carpet family for their commercial donation.
What's the engineer's estimate for the sanitary line?
I want to say it's about 4.5.
4.5 million? And it's for the sole purpose of, so the only commercial development that you currently have, that the $4.5 million that we're going to spend to run the sanitary line is the one that we're talking about tonight?
That's the only current one publicly out there. We've talked to other property owners along 159th, but nothing is generated as of yet.
They got $8 million bond issue too.
Part of the problem though is getting the utilities going, both sanitary and water, and then obviously with the road construction is not planned to be done until the end of 2018. So all those things by themselves kind of, trigger when developers want to consider going into a certain area. So as you get further down the street, you're still dealing with a lot of the construction. So we hope that a lot of this, as these systems get in and as the road starts nearing completion, that we can get more activity up and down that block.
Now, you had mentioned the well also. I know the car wash won't be operating if you're on a well. How deep are you going for a well?
You know what, I think that's all dependent on what capacity they would need and what the ground would, I mean, that's purely an option. I know that they don't want to have to go
I
to
know,
that.
but it's an option that
Sure.
all the people in Shady Hollow are concerned about because the wells around there go anywhere from 120 to 180.
Sure. And so you hit it on the head. It all depends on again, I'm no expert on wells. All depends on the capacity that you need. It depends on where the location is and what kind of water table and how far you need to go. Right?
So what happens to all the people in Shady Lane and Shady Hollow if their wells start going dry after they dig a well? For use for a commercial development.
Sure. I'm not sure there's a one-to-one correlation on that hypothetical, but I think you can make an issue where wells go dry, right? You're on a well system, I take it.
I've lived out here my whole
Yeah.
life.
So wells can go dry, and sometimes you need to drill deeper, right?
Well, they go dry when somebody else taps in and starts pulling water, especially a commercial development. that uses water.
Why can't you get the water from Lockport? I mean, Lockport's reaping benefits from everything around, it seems, so why can't you, get the water from Lockport? Get the city water from Lockport instead of drilling a well and having everybody out here worrying about their wells going dry.
Sure. So there is a plan to bring the water down to connect up to the pipe system over by Cedar. So we've got it designed. We're proposing to go out to bid. We could go to Lockport as well. It's just bringing it a different angle, a different way. So you have similar issues, right? You still have to bring it in from a certain location, tap it in. Lockport, my understanding, they're on well systems, they're not on Chicago water. And they have a similar issue with, how deep are the wells, do they have the capacity, all those kinds of things. So, our goal is not to, with this development, or quite frankly, any other development, to cause adverse effect to the neighborhoods. And so, you're asking some technical questions to a guy who's not technical, so I apologize if I'm not answering, a well question to the depth that you might like. But, what I would say is that this developer's goal, along with any other developer, would be to tap into the systems that we want to put in. When they talk alternates, that's purely in a kind of worst-case scenario. And what would happen if, something doesn't happen and they have no other access? So they'd have to consider those options. I'm sure
Or
that...
just wait to open until they have water available.
Well, and I think from a timing standpoint, that's kind of where it's kind of triggering. I think what they're doing as a business entity is saying, what happens if something comes up and there's no water for 6 months or a year or what, I don't want to put a time frame on, but,
Well, you'd think though, if there's going to be commercial development, you guys have to have the infrastructure in place to support them. If you don't have the infrastructure in place, why are you putting a commercial development in there?
Yes.
It doesn't make, it's kind of putting the cart before the horse. You should have that available first, and then they can come in and do their thing.
I think it's a timing issue, and I think based on what we're proposing, we think the timing will work out.
Well, you think, but if it doesn't, then we're the ones that are going to pay the price.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Possibly.
And again, it's hypothetical, but if it does happen, then what happens to us? We're the ones left hanging out here to dry. Same thing with the floods, the water. There's developments all over the state that they say they do exactly what they're supposed to do by the book, and the residents still flood. And they say, well, we did what we were supposed to do. They wash their hands of it and walk on. So, and we're the ones that are going to pay the price. So, there's got to be a consideration.
Maybe you shouldn't give them an occupancy permit until your infrastructure is in place and you have the sewer and water.
Yeah, that would make
Let them
sense.
let them take
There
the
you go.
chance instead of everybody else.
So it's all good things. And
Can I clarify your statement to my neighbor here?
Sure, go ahead.
That you say you're gonna dig a commercial well. I've been out here 28 years. I've never had one problem with my well. You're gonna put a commercial person dig a temporary well that the information that I looked up through 3 different types of car wash systems, the average is 7,000 gallons a day.
We're not using the well for the car wash. If we have to put a temporary well in, we're not using that well for that car wash.
Okay, well,
The only thing
people
we're
are just
doing-
potable water in the station?
Only for the station.
Well, yeah,
And
this is-
believe me, we don't want to put the well in either, because, of course, we have to spend the money for the well for what?
Okay.
A certain amount of time, and then we hook up to the other system.
Sir, you just have to, what I've been dealing with for the past couple of months is people telling me what's gonna be happening,
Understood.
okay? And I was told that you guys, if the well and if the water and the sewage wasn't there, they were gonna give you a temporary well to open that business. That's coming from staff here.
Understood. But if we have to go to a well, we're not going to use that for the car wash.
Okay? It just seems, like I said, it just seems disingenuous that you tap a well higher up the hill from me. I've been here 28 years. No matter what kind of water they're using, all of a sudden, all of Shady Hollow runs dry. That's just an act of God? No, it's not. It's cause effect.
I think you're doing hypotheticals. And
Well, you're doing hypotheticals too.
all I'm saying is that, is that we're trying to put in some utilities, whether it's this development or any other development, and all they're doing as a developer is saying, what if, just like you're doing with the what if on the worst case scenario. I'm not sure there's a cause and effect. I know there's a nervousness, right? So I have to rely on engineers doing their usage and designs, and to make sure they're done right. And again, there are developments that we have in the community that, again, another gas station that's on a well and septic system. So it's not that they can't operate that way. They're not perfect. I'm sure they would prefer not to even consider something like that, nor are we trying to encourage that. So it's purely just options. So
Some of us are old enough to remember a car wash that went on the north side of Joliet back about the 70s and put all the wells dry in the south side of Lockport. And people lost their homes and all kinds of problems. Even after they went bankrupt and closed the car wash, some of the wells came back and some didn't.
yeah. So
People lost a lot.
and I can appreciate
And it
that.
happens because water tables can fluctuate, but sometimes you get air and the water can't get back.
And I appreciate the sensitivity. I think the developer is committed that they don't want to use a well system for the car wash. And
Because you don't have the sewer system in. So
Well-
you're kind of talking,
I think just to ease, because I think there was a concern on capacity for water usage, and I think their commitment is that, hey, we don't want to do a well in the first place, and if we needed it, let's just make up a hypothetical. If we needed it by a month to have a well for the convenience store, that's obviously something that they can investigate. It's not best scenario, and it's all hypothetical because our goal is to get a system up and running, and I'm sure they want to operate a business and have it be something that they know what their resources are. So a lot of this is us projecting questions that I don't have a lot of the answers on. So I can truly appreciate the concern. We have the same concerns, whether it's drainage, whether it's traffic, whether it's water supply. So we want to make sure that whatever happens, whether it's this development or any other development, doesn't adversely affect the neighborhoods. I can't get into the hypotheticals because there's just too many variables, but we appreciate that. And
Well, there's another thing, okay, you're talking there's no trucks in that, okay? I came home today, I followed a truck all the way down Lamont Road. He turned right straight to Couger and then down that way, okay? And how many signs are out there? It says 7-ton limit, no trucks. Friday, I left home. I'm right behind a semi, going straight down Couger again.
can I just hold that one thought? Because I know that there's a lot of questions on that. So what I'd like to do, if this is possible, is see if we can, I know drainage is important, so I'd like to at least try to get you to a comfort level on that. Maybe we will or maybe we won't. And just try to take some of the big subjects and just at least answer all the questions that we can, whether we agree or don't agree. Let's try to do that. Let's double back to that because I know that that's probably the meat of maybe a lot of what everybody else has. So we'll go right back to that if we could.
One question which I didn't understand completely, but what she said, why can't Homer get all their stuff together before they start building instead of giving us the, well, this might not. I mean, why can't you just do that? Because that creek is bad. I've got movies of it. I mean, it's something you might see in the mountains with the flash flooding. Oh, that's what scares me. But why can't Homer get their stuff done instead of keeping us on pins and needles, wondering are you guys going to do it or not, and then give them all their permits?
So right now the process that they're going through is purely a zoning process. Okay? So I can appreciate the concerns, but like anybody, you try to time, the project, and you try to time what needs to get done. At this meeting, I don't have the authority to say what the board might or might not do, and so the board is going to, as VJ mentioned at the beginning, there's like 5 or 6 different special uses. The board's going to have to go through all the different special uses and make a decision whether they concur with the plan commission, want to change the plan commission's recommendations, or quite frankly, throw it back for more research, right? So that the stage they're going through right now is purely the planning stage. And once they get beyond that, they'd have to go through the permitting stage, whether it's through us. There's some of it's that's through the county, the health department, for example. And obviously they'll have to deal with the state and with the right-of-way on 159th and also the portion on Couger. So there's a lot of different moving pieces.
Did anybody on the board or you ever see the creek on the Couger area after a very heavy rain, after the 100-year rain? And I mean, my house got the creek in front of it. His house has the creek in front of it. And this was before that subdivision was even built down a ways. That creek went over our driveways. I mean, it did drain fast, but the whole cul-de-sac was filled.
No doubt. I personally haven't seen, I know a lot of board members have seen the stuff.
Road was flooded, and I'm not sure if she's in that big white house or not, but that whole creek on the west side of Couger was just loaded with water flowing. I mean, it was bad. I've got videos of it, and it. So
getting back to the drainage, and this is, I don't expect you to be an expert in drainage, and I know that Fitterman Creek has certain capacities when there's bad storms. It's bad. So correct me if I'm explaining this wrong, but the site as it stands right now, empty field, will this, even with the the concrete, the buildings, will that have more capacity than it does now or less?
It's going to have 1.5 times as much capacity with our comp storage. It's called compensatory storage.
So just to simplify, just to break it down right now. So I know the fear is, you got Fitterman Creek and all the issues with Fitterman Creek. Totally get that.
The thing to remember with Fitterman Creek is Fitterman Creek drains a huge drainage area.
Yes.
It drains multiple square miles. I'm going to guess 10 square miles or 5 square miles, some big number. This little drainage area here drains about 70 acres, which is about a tenth of a square mile.
But I think the important thing, just to kind of, without being an expert, I know, sir, you've had a lot of experience on Fitterman Creek, but without being an expert on it, just understanding that with the design, whatever it might be, gas station, McDonald's, whatever it might be, the way they've got to work it, if it's more, they have to hold more capacity now than what's out there. I think generically, that's how you got to think about it. Don't worry about how deep the pond is or all that. That's what the engineers are paid for. So what happens is they hire an engineer who designs it. They send the information through us. We send it out. We re-verify it and then review it, make sure that things are addressed accordingly. When it gets built, we make sure it gets built according to whatever the engineer plans are. So I get the concern, this development's not going to fix Fitterman Creek, right? But to think about it just in a very generic sense, take the gas station out of it. Let's assume it's picture the best thing you can put a new house, whatever you want to think there. They're going to have more capacity on the site with the improvements than it is now. So it's going to make it better. Will it make it perfect and fix all the other problems that are out there? No, and that's not their issue.
I want to add to that,
Yeah.
because I talked to the state engineer regarding the widening of 159th Street. Basically what they've done is double the size of the culverts. The same thing IDOT did at 159th and Galvin. Now, they plan on holding about 2 inches of rain. So I asked him, what about when we get to 6 to 8 inch rains? And he said, God help you. We know what happens on Fitterman Creek, and we know the next time we get a big rain, it's going to be worse than ever, because instead of a 3-foot culvert, now they got a 6-foot culvert over there. And so on, and on top of that, instead of 2 lanes, we got 4 paved lanes. So as a result, we're going to get about 30% more water, and we're going to get twice as fast, which means, like I've seen it back in the 60s, the water likely will be as high as I-355 bridge, which means Shady Lane is be underwater.
But this project isn't going to contribute to that.
Yes. So, and here's what I'd say. And you bring up good questions. I'm not prepared to answer how IDOT engineered. So what I would suggest, we have these quarterly meetings with IDOT to talk about that road improvement. I'd ask you to come to those. We just had one maybe a month ago. We'll probably have another month or two down the road. The engineer is going to be there for that. That's the appropriate time on that one, because that's a near subject, but a different subject than what this development team is able to answer, and definitely beyond my capacity on that, because I haven't gotten into those details. But what we want to do here tonight, and I appreciate y'all coming out, is we want to try to separate the site-related issues, which have their own unique criteria, concerns for the adjacent property owners, and then the existing issues, because we're dealing with existing things on Couger Road and those things that this development may or may not have any effect on. So that was part of the reason to hold the meeting, is to kind of try to separate that, whether this development happens. We're still dealing with items up and down Couger and things like that. So let's just try to stay on one subject at a time if we can. So I know drainage is important and things like that. So if any other questions? Margaret, go ahead.
Okay, the subject now is water. Is that what you're saying?
Drainage. Let's just stick with drainage first off. And then,
Okay, drainage.
yeah.
Okay.
If there's more questions on that, then we can try to answer.
Well, okay, I have a question about drainage. Are you aware, as has been explained to us, that natural filtering into the ground treats some pollution? In other words, it's better than concrete flow with water flowing in the concrete. Okay, well, the drainage and the pollution is low. However,
informational give and take, it's not a public hearing, so we weren't having formal meeting minute notes or anything like that. Just try to answer a lot of questions that is easier in this one.
But I see, I'm very thankful that there are 2 trustees here, and there are 3, I'm sorry. They're listening to what is happening here. And they can take us back with them.
Absolutely.
And so that's important, and I hope that we get something.
Okay, so let me paraphrase. I think your question, just to summarize, is what does the development do for oil water separation? How do they handle, a gas spill on the site if somebody overflows something, or those kinds of things? Natural, just, yeah.
It's like any other gas station, they're gonna leave it.
I'll leave that. So why don't you take a shot at it? We're experts in gas stations, so it's.
Right, well, I mean, the best case is to handle it, if there's a spill at a pump, I mean, there's attendants on duty 24 hours a day. They're gonna run out, they're gonna do what they need to do to get that cleaned up immediately. If it's larger scale than that, it's gonna have to, it's gonna be addressed as best as it can with putting down materials to absorb it.
Brian, you mentioned there's an oil water separator.
That's right.
Why don't you explain how that works?
So, in the storm sewer, there's those snouts. They call them a snout. You can look it up on the internet, but it's a hood, basically. It's a plastic or a fiberglass hood that goes on the upstream side of the outlet pipe of the storm sewer. So that hood, prevents oil, diesel fuel is going to float on the water. It prevents that from going out the outlet pipe, basically. So it's going to collect in that structure.
And I think Margaret had a question on the plantings in those ponds.
Okay.
Do you know how there's certain plantings that they obviously absorb water?
Absolutely, yes. Right, so in the compensatory storage area, let me start with that. There's 3 different types of plantings that are gonna have to occur. There's emergent plantings. So those are the ones that are in the water that are basically 0 to 4 inches deep. They're going to, they're going to promote, they're going to absorb the water. That's going to improve water quality before it exits the site. There's wet prairie plantings. So these hatched areas here are kind of on top of these smaller pool areas where the emergent plantings are. It's the cross hatching that you see on the screen. Probably can't see it up there. But so there's wet prairie plantings, and then we have upland prairie plantings, more on the side slopes of the compensatory storage area. That's these straight lines that you see here. And those are all, there's going to be a prescribed seeding list that's going to be reviewed and approved with final engineering and permitting. That area is going to have a maintenance and monitoring program associated with whatever permitting that is done for this compensatory storage area. As far as the stormwater detention area, if we're doing a wetland type of bottom, there's again a seed mix that there's probably 30 different seed species that go into these wetland detention ponds. And those also absorb water, obviously, and then they're going to improve the water quality because they're promoting infiltration, and whatever the plants don't absorb is going to come back out the outlet with an improved water quality.
What's the estimated time frame if you're planting seeds for maturation of those plants? Because you're going to still have the same problems until those plants mature.
Right, there's blanketing.
Is it a 6 month, a 9 month, a year, or is it a 5 year?
There's actually some performance criteria that is handled, especially down here on the compensatory storage area. There's coverage criteria that's got to be met as part of the permitting. You're right, erosion control. Controlling the erosion to let those seeds take and get established. That's part of the maintenance and monitoring program.
you brought up taking advantage of that 30-inch culvert. And for us, that just a few years ago, that 30-inch culvert was a beat-up 18-inch that was about 12 inches.
Right.
So that's why we're kind of sensitive to the fact that we're getting twice as much water and twice as fast, or even faster.
But remember too, that our detention pond is taking basically 5 acres of area, and it's collecting that water and releasing it at a restricted outlet here. So we're gonna have little, 3-inch holes, openings in the restrictor wall before it discharges into the sediment basin here, where the water would pool and then discharge to that 30-inch pipe.
And I think that goes back to what we're trying to say, is that with the future plan, if it gets built, will actually be less of a burden on where it's going currently onto your site. And not that you might not be experiencing issues on your site, but that the proposed development won't make it worse and won't add more capacity to that. They're going to store more water on their site. So I know it's hard to get your arms around, but you gotta trust some of the engineering concepts. And
that, if you look at the big picture of stormwater detention and stormwater detention ordinances and why they've come into effect, I mean, that's exactly why. It's because it's to restrict all the runoff from these developed areas to release them at a much lower rate. It takes more time to release them, but they release. The analogy is it's a 5-gallon bucket, hang it at the end of your gutter, and if you drill a little hole in the bottom of the bucket, that's a stormwater detention pond.
so, any more stormwater questions? We might not have satisfied everything, but any more, sir? If not, we can jump onto a different subject, but go ahead.
Well, on all of this, if you're going to hold the water and it escapes, what's wrong with an insurance policy, a bond, or whatever, to give those people on Shady Lane some protection? I mean, you're going to build a pond. If the pond leaks and their springs develop in their houses, what's wrong with taking responsibility and saying, okay, we got an insurance policy, we got a bond, and if this happens to you and it destroys your house, we got it covered.
Yeah, there you go.
I haven't seen that done before.
Yeah, I have not seen that done before.
It certainly has been done before.
Not that I'm aware of.
Hi, my name is Lyman Zeman. I'm the attorney for Lynn McHenry. In terms of the detention pond, you're saying that if it doesn't function properly, there should be some kind of a bond or remuneration to homeowners in the area. The detention pond is built, number one, it's built based upon village and county standards, which are provided thoroughly by our engineer. Then they're sent over to the village engineer, and those are reviewed. We, as in other developments, the county has bumped up their standards on detention ponds over the last 5 or 10 years. I'm sure the village has done the same thing. What was allowed 5 or 10 or 15 years ago is not allowed anymore. But essentially the purpose here is to retain the water from our 5 acres and release it at a lesser rate than what is currently going off the property.
Excuse me, what is the problem is that you're building your house on sand. We're talking about glacial till. That's where the glaciers left boulders and rocks and sand. And now you're going to put a pond on top of this. If this was solid, if we didn't go across the road and see all these rocks and sand, we know what's underneath that, right, where you're building the pond. We know what's going to be underneath it. Okay? If we didn't go across the road into Pat Mitchell's field and see all rocks, sand, gravel, does the county know? Does the engineer know that he's building a pond on top of sand?
Well, that's part of the engineer's responsibility, part of the village engineer's responsibility.
And we want some responsibility for some insurance. If you're going to build on top of this, knowing you're building on top of glacial till, you at least ought to insure these people.
Well, I don't know if there's any way to relate that. If you have some kind of a claim caused by our development, then I think, yes, proceed, approach our development, we'll talk about it. But
Well, it seems like responsibility when we take.
there's no way up front a developer is going to issue an insurance policy or a bond based on something that may happen in the future. I mean, it's just,
When you're building a lot of sand and rocks and gravel, you know,
Right.
you're building where you know. If you don't know, you've been told.
Right,
You've
and-
been told it's glacial till, you can see geologic maps, it's glacial till.
and that's part of sound engineering to make sure that that doesn't happen.
And if it does happen, let's have some protection.
Well, then you have the right to come back to this development.
We want to,
We have
come
the
back
right,
after
we
the
have
guy's
the
lost his
right
house.
to come back to our
No,
engineer.
not after he's lost his house. We want some protection so he can get himself another house.
Right. I sympathize with what you're saying, but there's nothing within our purview that we can do about it.
It's been done.
Well, I appreciate it, and I knew there might be points that come up tonight that either the developer can't answer or we can't answer. So why don't we move on? We've got a note on that. And why don't we move on to the next subject? So is there any more drainage-related questions?
The storage area that we have some contaminated water, let's say it is from a spill, something of this nature, what is going to be the standard operating procedure for checking how badly it is and then getting rid of what you have in that pond or in the storage area?
In the catch basins?
Yes.
So, I mean, in the unlikely event that there's fuel or whatever that makes it to the catch basins, I mean, that's going to be on the attendant and the owner to address those areas. They would need to, probably get a back truck there as soon as possible and
I think,
get it
Brian,
removed.
maybe you can, and maybe one of the team members can talk about, with gas stations, there's different safety mechanisms. So there's a breakaway on the hose that shuts things off. There's alarm protection and leak protection on your tank systems. I mean, so there's a myriad of different aspects. I know people are worried about maybe just somebody with, taking the hose and pouring it or spilling it, but there's different things that can happen, and there's different alarms, protections, and those kinds of things that they get. And this is standard across all gas stations. It's not something that would be specific to this particular one, but maybe you guys could elaborate on some of those.
Well, as far as the tanks go, they're double walled, the underground fuel storage tanks, they're double walled fiberglass tanks. They have sensor equipment in the walls of the tank, so if there's a leak in the first layer, if you will, there's an alarm system that indicates leak, needs to be addressed right away. There's an attendant on duty that's notified that a problem with the tank. It's not like it was, 30, 40 years ago when these underground storage tanks were steel and they rusted out and they leaked. The technology is way more advanced than that.
Well, will your control system shut itself off even without an attendant?
There's an automatic stop, I believe.
If there's a leak in the tank or piping system, it shuts down the system. For a spill under 25 gallons out of the driveway, we clean that up ourselves. If it's over 25 gallons, we're required to call notify the EPA for a spill, and then call out the company to come out and clean it up.
Why don't let's jump to lighting. I don't know if you got the lighting plan. Let's just hit that real quick, and then in case you have any questions, and we'll double back to the traffic issues. I know that's still a lingering concern.
All right, this is the
You'll
lighting.
love
plan.
this exhibit. This is a great exhibit.
This is a a grid with a lot of numbers, basically. So this is the photometric plan that's been prepared for the site. There's a table off to the side that indicates the fixture types and the amount of each fixture, the lumens that each one puts out. There's some other factors that go into this total lumens calculation for the site. Our lumens per acre are about 95,000 per acre, which is under, I believe, the maximum required by ordinance of, I think it's 100,000, if I remember right, per acre. This is all LED lighting. It's high-tech lighting. This is not a lighting scenario from 20, 30 years ago that you could see from 5 miles away. You know, this is low-level, direct, cut-off LED lighting.
So these are dark sky ordinance?
Yes.
No variance.
We went through several reviews, meets the ordinance.
Peter, what other sides you have? Why don't we do this? I wanted to kind of highlight, kind of try to divide this into two here. So with Couger Road, we really have two issues. We got the existing issues that a lot of the property owners are currently dealing with. So if you can picture where the gravel driveway is that goes to internally into the property. So from the gravel driveway to 159th Street, that's actually a state route, right? So that portion's state. Once you get beyond there, once you go further north, it turns into the township road with the 7-ton truck route. So the highway department's put up signs, as you mentioned. They put up a lot of signs. They're small, but they're going to be putting up some big ones. Part of the problem that we've experienced over time is when the development in Lockport occurred, they did an extension on Couger Road. And when they did that extension was not automatically part of the various GPS systems. So we were experiencing a lot of problems where trucks, instead of getting off 143rd, they were looking at their GPS, they didn't realize that there was a Couger connecting to that, automatically went down to 159th Street. And so being in the neighborhood, you've seen them either go down the street or try to do a U-turn or try to turn around. Sure. So what we did, kind of just tell them the more bigger story, and we'll get back to the other more details. So what we did, we actually hired an engineer to go out and get GPS coordinates for that Couger Road extension. VJ then reached out to different GPS companies to get that data so we can get that information onto the GPS systems. A lot of times that takes time, so that's not, you know, just put it out there and then all of a sudden it's out there automatically. It depends on how old the programs are. So the township highway commissioner, Mike DeVivo, he actually went down to each of those businesses, explained what the truck route was, explained which roads are going, gave them copies of the ordinance, the signage, explained it. So I think for the majority of the day-to-day users, I think they understand which way to come in and out. There's obviously independent guys. Let me finish and then you can. So there's obviously independent guys that maybe don't go to these businesses every day or whatnot. So those are the ones that we're running into. So we really have two issues. So we've got the existing issue of how do we deal with Couger, right? So it's a Lockport issue in certain areas because they control a certain portion of Couger. It's a Will County issue, basically from 151st up to basically Kathy Boo's property, and then it turns into a Homer Glen issue. So, we've got that issue right now, whether it's this development or any other development, right? We still have that issue of trucks coming up and down the street and how to educate them, how to penalize them, how to change their behavior. So, just kind of big picture, Will County, we've got the contract with Will County to patrol Homer Glen roads. So obviously they do our area and non-incorporated area. They have 650 square miles. That's a lot of areas for them to patrol. The village of Homer Glen has 22 square miles. That is still a lot. So VJ, go to the next slide. So I know the concern is we haven't done a good enough job and I'll say we, I'm just going to say across the board, government hasn't done a good enough job of doing enforcement and changing the behavior. So I reached out to Lockport and I said, tell me at your small section of Couger where they're not supposed to go. So they're supposed to go north to 143rd, jump back on the interstate. Obviously some of them go south, right? How many tickets do you issue? So just in that small section, they've issued 90 since last January. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's really a small segment for them. Will County, and this is both our little Kathy Boo section up to 151st, did 595 stops since last January. Okay, so that included everything from trucks to speeders to, you know, whatever, DUIs, whatever. Just on Couger, just in that section. So the traffic hours, this is kind of hard to see, but you got the PowerPoint. It was 85 hours physically out on the street for Will County. These are dedicated, you know, go out, sit on the street kind of patrols. Total hours, this is when people are calling to complain, when they're bringing it up in roll call, when they, you know, dispatch people out, all that, writing the reports is 180 hours. So that's been what has been done to date. And as a former mayor that I worked with always said, we could always do better, right? So it hasn't solved the problem, right? You still have trucks either turning around, doing U-turns, still going north, still going south, and still going down that road, right? I don't have a count on whether it's 1 a day, 10 a day, 20 a day. I don't know what that count is. It probably varies. So, so I'm sorry?
What it costs the township, say Lockport or Homer or anyone else, what the cost of it to patrol is versus the revenue that's gained by patrolling it?
I don't, because A, I don't know what Lockport pays their officers, and B, they get the revenue when it goes to them. When we do it, we don't collect the revenue on those traffic stops. So if Will County is writing those tickets, it goes through Joliet. So our goal is not to have it be a revenue stream, right? We want to correct the problem, right? We want to change the behavior.
But there's revenue attached to it.
There's revenue, but there's revenue attached to it through the tickets, and that's meant, at least in the way I view it, is meant to deter the issue, not to be a revenue stream for the organization. So I only put this up there because I know that there's concerns that we're not doing enough, or that we're doing anything. We're not doing enough. So we have to deal with this issue whether the gas station gets approved or not. So I know that since the last meeting that we've reached out to Will County. Let me finish and I'll jump right back to you. I'm talking to your neighbor. Let me just finish my one thought, and let me. So we did reach out to Will County. Will County is going to be doing some additional patrols above and beyond what that is, and we do. We mentioned at this is the board meeting. We did, as part of our budget, put a certain line item in there for specialty patrols. So we as a community can do things above and beyond just the normal patrols that we have. We also are meeting with Lockport 2 weeks from this week to specifically just talk truck traffic and those kinds of things. What are they doing? How are they doing it? What are we doing? How are we doing it? What can we do better, right? So not a silver bullet. We haven't solved the problem. But we have to deal with that regardless of whatever happens here. So I'm going to pause on that, answer your questions.
Okay. I think what was not anticipated when Lockport set up the warehouses on 151st, then they put warehouses down by 163rd, and now north of 151st and over by 171, another big area. They didn't expect all this intermodal. In other words, if they've got part of a load at one system, they go over to another. You're getting not just out of state or out of the area trucks. I think you've got trucks going back and forth in order to fill a load. And as a result, that's going to continue to increase traffic. In other words, they go down to 163rd, they go up to 151st, and when they get built over at 171, let's go get, you know, I mean, you're going to have continuous. It's, I mean, 163rd hardly got started, and all of a sudden, we got trucks going back and forth. The FedEx is naturally going to use what they can.
Right. So no doubt there's a lot of traffic from these various facilities. I don't have a handle on all the different users in there. We have to deal with it, right? It's not in our community, but we're getting the overflow, if you will. So, you know, part of how we want to try to deal with it, you know, again, there's no one silver bullet. It's a lot of it's going to be through enforcement, right? And that's going to have to be with Will County Sheriff, which we've talked about, with Lockport on what they're doing. A lot of it is education with the businesses to try to explain which way they go. A lot of it is correcting the GPS systems, which we've tried to do. It's not perfect. And, you know, so again, sans what happens with this development, we still have those issues that we have to deal with. And go ahead.
No, here's the problem. And everybody's telling me I'm out of my mind. Okay? He's plopping down what was supposed to be a gas station. Now he has a truck refueling station, correct? Okay.
Can I just ask you to,
sorry.
I know where that question's going to go. Can we just focus on, I'm just trying to.
I'm focusing on the traffic.
I gotta, let's hold off till we jump back to that side. So let's just.
Let me make my point. You've made yours, if I can make my point. Everybody's telling me that I'm out of my mind. Okay, that there's not going to be a problem because I have no problem with you guys putting in a gas station. I don't want, you were voted down by the Planning Commission 4-0. They told you to take out the truck refueling stations and you can put up the rest of your gas station. I'm not trying to shut you guys down. You'll still make money. You're the only facility that side of I-355 that'll have food, gas, donuts, everything they need the commuters to go on. That truck refueling station goes in. Everybody tells me I'm nuts. At 163rd, there's currently under construction 1,485,000 square feet of warehousing facility at 163rd, 4 blocks from your station. Okay? We got 151st. There's 9 buildings down there with a grand total of over 2.5 million square feet. And there's only 4 buildings that are operational. Okay? Prologis has now been authenticated by Lockport. That's going to bring in 400 trucks a day at 151st and Arch Avenue, less than 2 miles. I've been dealing with illegal truck traffic for a year and a half. You think by putting up a yard arm sign, these truckers are, oh, there's a yard arm sign. I can't go that way. It's a no truck route. There's 3 signs up there now with an international no truck route if you don't read English. You don't think that with all these facilities, within a mile of this, all these tractor trailers aren't going to be running up there to get fuel? They are. They are. Don't tell me they might be. They are.
So the question on that is,
the Planning Commission voted it down with a recommendation, just remove the diesel fueling base, you get everything else. You're still going to make a profit. It takes care of the problem for us. We still have to get enforcement out there for the idiots that are still running down that road. But I don't want to draw more because there's a diesel refueling facility there. And everybody's telling me nuts that it's not going to happen. The creep is already beginning to happen. Drive around Lockport when these drivers are out of meter time. They're dumping in anywhere they can overnight. They're sitting there idling in the Walmart parking lot. Anywhere where they got 24 hours where they can get a bathroom, something to drink, something to eat, and park their trailer. As this development gets a little bit bigger, there's going to be more pavement there. You don't think truck drivers out of meter are going to pull in there, fuel up, and then sit either on your site or just off your site? They will. Who's going to enforce it? Are you guys going to go out there and enforce? Hey, get your truck out of here. When I go up there at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's 3 tractor trailers in the parking zone that's for automobiles. They're out of meter time, and they're going to sit there overnight and night. And all those fumes coming off the prevailing winds are wafting right down the hill into my house. Everybody's telling me I'm nuts. I'm not nuts. I'm already seeing it happen. And that's the problem. It won't happen. The mayor tells me, oh, it won't happen. Is he going to monitor it? I live there. Are you going to monitor it, sir? Are you going to come out and monitor your station, make sure your trucks aren't parking there? And I don't. Are you going to take time out of your life to come out and monitor that for me?
we have a tractor
Just like, oh, your people are hazmat techs, and now they're also police officers. They're supposed to take care of any spill. Do you know how many times I've gone to a gas station for a person that's making minimum wage for a spill that they were supposed to take care of, and I had to go out there and take care of it for them? You're asking a lot for your people. I've gotten, like I said, I've been threatened by these truck drivers because I've yelled at them. You think your person's going to go out there and tell them to get off the property and a guy's going to come out and threaten them in the middle of the night? They don't have powers of arrest. That's my problem. Everybody's telling me that I'm nuts. I'm not nuts. Again, and this is getting to be a full-time job for me. Most of my neighbors are retired. I mean, most of my neighbors are working. I'm lucky enough to be retired, so I'm the one being the front man on this stuff. You guys do this for a living. This is your job. I still have to keep mounting defenses against this. I thought we wanted the planning commission. All you did is reroute the truck traffic through your site. That doesn't take care of the problem. The diesel refueling bays are going to draw trucks there like a magnet. You can't, Pro Loaches is 400 trucks a day. You only have 2 operational buildings 4 blocks from it, and there's only 4 operational out of 9 down here. When those things get fully going, you don't think a truck driver that's sitting at 151st and Couger and know there's a fueling station 8 blocks down, he's going to go out 143rd, go up on the expressway, come around and come into your fueling station? I've spent a year and a half on this of my time. The last time I wanted to waste a day and just, count trucks that are coming down that road, I gave up at 18. Okay, that was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I started at 8. Okay, this isn't running down in front of your guys' houses. Okay, it's running right in front of my house. And again, I've warned every council member, I've warned the village, everybody here. There's a bus stop at the bottom of that hill. These trucks, these trucks are coming. I've clocked them at 55 miles an hour. It's not that it's your problem, but they're going to be coming. An 18-inch thing's going to. I've seen truck drivers drove. You think an 18-inch median's going to keep them from making that right-hand turn and going north on Couger? You know how many trucks I've seen go over bigger stuff than that because they wanted to make that turn? So again, I'm saying that I'm tired of people telling me that I'm nuts.
Don't you think, though, most of these trucks, and I'm not saying somebody isn't going to wander down there and refuel. Most of these truckers are leaving wherever they're leaving in the morning. They're fueled already. They're not going to come by us to fuel up.
They're coming through 24 hours a day now that RJW is working around the clock. They're coming down Couger.
I understand that, but we're not there.
What? But when you're there, these buildings haven't gone into effect yet. There's only 4 buildings working. You don't think when there's a truck refueling station 8 blocks away from the warehousing facility, that I'm not going to go back down there?
Are all these trucks, are they starting at that point, or are they coming from somewhere else?
I don't have the routing manifest.
No, why
They're just rolling down Couger Road from 159th to 151st, and I get about a 20% return rate going the other way because they're too stupid. I watched the one guy driving from 151st to 159th, get back on the expressway and head back north.
I'm 100% sympathetic to what you're saying, but it sounds like then that becomes an enforcement issue, doesn't it?
I've tried for a year and a half, but I don't want anything that's going to draw more trucks. These buildings aren't even operational now. And you put that truck refueling station, it's going to draw like flies to a sugar cube. And you guys know it. But sir, you stood up at the last meeting and said, this is not the business that I'm looking for. It's only 1 to 3% of my business.
No, that's not correct.
That is verbatim. I heard that. That is verbatim, sir.
No. I'm not trying to solicit and entice the people that are down in the distribution centers to drive down the illegal street. I'm not after that business. Okay.
All right, you're not advocating, but it's going to happen.
I'm after the business on 159th Street. And if they wanted to get off the interstate and stop. I don't want anybody driving in front of your house. But you know what? In such and such a way, that's another issue. That's not our issue. We're trying to stop every truck. The only thing we're talking about here is trucks, because really, that's your only concern. All the water and all that stuff is all taken care of. Okay?
According to you guys, you say it is.
Okay, all right. I'm a good businessman. I'm a good neighbor person. Okay? I'm going to make sure that nothing happens. Okay? I'm not going to operate a car wash and take a chance of sucking your wells dry. Okay, I'm not that kind of person. Okay, okay, that's not
I
gonna
don't know you
happen.
from Adam,
But
so.
your truck issue is, maybe in a rough way, is not our issue, okay? And we're stopping the trucks from coming out and going down Couger Road. And another thing, you can laugh at me if you want. Okay, go ahead, Mike. All right, I'll tell you another thing. I'll tell you another thing. For somebody that's around 7 days a week for years on end, the worst thing I think, take the truck island out. Now the trucks are going to show up. Now there's nowhere to go. Now you got a bigger mess because they're going to come. They're going to park on the side. Hey, how do I get to the distribution center down the street when I see a 7-ton?
That's not my problem.
No, now it's our problem, and now we have no place to put the truck.
All right,
Because
so-
because we're giving the trucks an option to get off the street and get back on the right street.
But for the trucks that don't go, that do go down the street, right on the bottom of the hill is the school bus stop. And it's not one, it's not two.
They're going down the street
No,
if
if
we're
they're
there
going
or not
down
there.
Couger, 40, 50 miles an hour when it's a 30-mile thing, all of a sudden they're on the hill.
We didn't run them down there
Not
50
you.
miles an hour.
Okay, so this is what I was trying to get
This
at.
is-
Hold on one sec, Terry, hold on one sec. So,
No, I got my moment here, okay? I'm tired of being told I'm crazy.
nobody's saying you're crazy.
Well, I'm getting all these, it won't happen, Tim.
So, here's what
And who do I go to when it does happen? Do I go to you?
Let me finish.
Do I go to you? Do I go to you? Who do I go to? Who do I go when my house value goes down? When all these trucks are ripping and roaring up and down Galvin Road. And it's gonna happen. Because you guys are selling, you're a heroin dealer at the top of the hill. They're gonna come to you.
All right, so here's
I'm not selling diesel, you're selling diesel.
Let's keep it calm,
I
right?
am Tom.
Let's not use
He's selling
incinerating.
diesel, and he's gonna draw every
So
truck from
we've
every
got, as I
thing.
mentioned earlier, we've
Well,
got,
actually, Tim brought up a good point, and you did too. You said you're providing a spot for them to turn around.
Yeah.
Provide the spot, take the diesel pumps out. They don't need to refuel there. You can still provide the spot. You're also giving them an opportunity to turn left into your station when they're headed south on
Grab a
Galvin.
donut and go the right way.
How about the trucks and the landscaping trucks and people that are on 159th Street that want to come
Well, they put in a small diesel pump like the rest of the gas stations out there. You don't need a two-lane thing for diesel.
Just have a small
There's tractors
diesel
and
pump.
trailers on 159th Street, there's
Every gas
landscaping
station out
trucks
there's
with
got a small
trailers.
diesel pump where they sit there, all these landscaping companies go into Speedway, and they got diesel pumps right there. They fill up every morning, I watch them every morning. They don't have no two-lane thing to refuel trucks.
Okay, I've been through this before, okay? Recently, okay, on Harlem Avenue, okay, the same thing. The trucks don't drive down the street. And if they drive down the street, boy, it wasn't us. You know, they put actually a flashing sign, like the one they were talking about with the arm, on the street that flashes, no trucks, no trucks. But the truck issue is, in my opinion, it's going to probably get worse because, in a matter of fact, something else I probably shouldn't say, you probably should have went to Lockport before all those things got built if you didn't want the trucks, because that's all they are is trucks. So we're trying to stop the trucks, give them a place to turn around.
Well, you're giving them a place to park.
They're not parking. It's not a truck stop. Okay, they're not parking and there's.
But you can't give them a spot to turn around, just take the lanes out. Just let them pull around, and if that's what you're saying, then I agree, yeah. Do that and have a separate pump for the landscape people. That's fine. Then you just get rid of those pumps. That's all.
Okay, so we stop them from coming out and going north and south. Okay.
All I'm worried about is getting the
If
trucks that might
18
grab
inches
it,
doesn't
trying to
go
get
up,
the
we'll
money
make
out
it
of them,
6
that's
feet.
all it is.
They're not turning right coming out of Gallup, or coming out of the station and going north and Gallup, okay? We took that problem away, okay? The other problem, you gotta talk to Will County, the police, the village, or whatever, that I just don't see see that on us.
Okay, so obviously we have a truck issue on Couger, right? That's an enforcement issue, along with other things that we might be able to do with or without this development, right? That's what I was trying to separate the two subjects.
And this development is going to exacerbate it by a factor of 10. As soon as the rest of those buildings go into operation, every truck driver within 2 square miles is going to be blown down Couger Road to get fuel.
And we should be handling the enforcement issue.
I've tried for a year and a half.
Well, we're doing what we can and we're trying to do better. That's all I can say. So what the board is ultimately going to consider, so in next steps, why don't you move BJ to the next slide, or the last slide. So, you know, this again, informational meeting. I really appreciate you guys coming out on a night that you didn't have to. Margaret, I'll get to you in a minute. And I'll get to you too.
I'd just like to offer one solution. That's close Couger at the top of the hill. Saves the bus stop, a Freightliner hitting a bus at Shady Lane. It saves the trucks coming through. It saves the environmental impact on Oak Prairie School. It saves a lot of issues. Close the road. Thank you.
There you go.
Let me finish my thought on what I said. Margaret, just hold 1 second. So, okay, I know, I'll get right back to you. So we, again, just to finish up, we do obviously have an enforcement issue, right? Again, with or without this. The developer only has so much control, right? You're absolutely right. If they have truck refueling, trucks could go to their site. Yes, could. What they've got control over, though, as a developer, is how they have their site laid out and how trucks can get in and out. What the board, what I was trying to get to, is what the board's ability when it comes to the board, and we don't have anything on tomorrow's agenda. We've got a plan to go before the board on the 14th. The board is gonna hear all the different special uses, and then they're gonna make a decision. They're gonna make a policy decision on what they want to do. So, you know, you're right, trucks can go up and down Couger, right? That's still an enforcement issue, right? They could have a McDonald's there instead of a gas station, and a trucker might want to say, I'm going to McDonald's, and still go up and down Couger. So we have to deal with the truck issue on Couger, whether it's this, whether it's a hotel that gets built there, whether, whatever. Okay, so we know that, and we have certain enforcement methods that we can do. We're going to step those up, right? We want to solve the problem. We can't have somebody out there 24/7, but we definitely can step up the enforcement.
Okay, so we're talking 24/7 of that you gave me on the enforcement activity here. So from January till May, we had basically 85.916 hours worth of enforcement on Couger.
On that specific one, yes.
In 4 months. And you wrote 595 citations for everybody. As I told you.
Just so we're clear, that's since January of the previous year, so it doesn't make us look any better. I just want to make sure.
That's 70 weeks. That's over 70 weeks.
And you can only.
85 hours and 70 weeks.
Right, just on that specific road. So,
and sir, Will County has a traffic division that's dedicated to traffic issues only. There's 7 members in that unit. I don't know what their contract calls for, whether it's an 8-hour day, a 12-hour day, okay, what they get for lunch, what they get for breaks. But 7 officers,
you're
8 hours a day.
all of Will County.
Right. But again, can we get an enforcement? I mean, I've been trying for a year and a half.
Sure, we are getting special enforcement through Will County. And what I would say is that when...
I need consistent enforcement.
I agree. But when I had a previous slide up there that talked about the amount of square miles that Will County has.
I understand.
So 7 officers over, I want to say it was 450 square miles. That's a lot of territory for 7 officers. And I'm just saying, it's not perfect.
They're always sitting on 147th Street.
But why exacerbate the situation by, saying I don't want bees in my yard, then put a honey pot out there? What's the point of that?
I get
Why
that,
make it worse?
And I get that anyhow. As a property owner, you have rights, right? As a developer trying to buy property, they have rights. And this is their process that they're going through to try to do a business that they want to do. Margaret, I'm going to go to you, and I'll come back to that because she keeps raising her hand.
Talking about rights, as a community, we have rights.
Absolutely.
As Homer's Glen also has rights, and Homer's Glen could turn this down.
So-
as far as a gas station servicing the trucks. And this is the big issue for these people. I think that they've suffered. I mean, I don't live too far from here. We have representatives here from Mallard Lakes too. And a lot of people don't even know this meeting is going on. It just shouldn't be for the immediate neighbors, because if this goes through with the trucks, this is eroding a neighborhood. Yes, it's close to Lockport. Lockport is responsible for these trucks. Lockport isn't doing anything about it. And I hope that they will cooperate. I don't know why they haven't even thought of this until you have to approach them, or the homeowner has to approach them. But if the trucks go through, this erodes the neighborhood. It doesn't stop here. It doesn't stop at 151st. It doesn't stop at Couger Road. It continues on because people are going to be very dissatisfied with their atmosphere, with the danger, with putting up with problems, noise. Noise pollution hasn't even been discussed here. We can hear, at Mallard Lakes, we can hear the I-355. And some days we can hear it worse. Now these people hear it all the time because they're closer. And then when the trucks are in there and they say hello with their air horns, or they have to blow their horns for some reason, that really echoes. We can hear shots. Someone firing a gun. That would be very, very far, but it ends up in our area. So here's another thing about noise pollution. As far as a sign is concerned, I just heard that sign that says no trucks is going to be flashing. Is that true?
That's an idea.
Well, that would be very bad if it's flashing, because anyone can experience the signs that are of protection. Flashing lights are a protection for people that might be going on a path, one of the trails at night, or if you go on 151st, you will see it. And it's blinding. It's annoying if you look around there. It's for a safety reason. But, don't you think the trucks will know by a certain time that they shouldn't be going down there? I mean, I don't think
Certainly,
they
that was just an idea.
perpetually being there. The other thing is that I do see, I did ask before, and this is a light subject, but it's an important subject to finish this plan. Gas stations are not attractive. They're not aesthetically pleasing, but they can be improved by doing some heavy landscaping. Not to disguise that there's that there's a gas station there, because it will be obvious from 159th Street. But to beautify the project and also screen it from the neighbors, because there's going to be development around here. There's going to be the Goo property. I'm sure they want to sell more property. Who's going to buy property when this is a truck stop atmosphere? And then also on the north side, the east side, the west side, there should be a requirement to do more landscaping and screening. And then also I do see in the proposal here and on this paper, it says there will be 18 vehicle vacuum stalls for parking. People are parking. That seems quite a lot for just the back of your car. At the place on Bell Road in 159th Street, there is a car wash and they have vacuum facilities there. They're not providing 18, and yet that's all they do is wash and back there. So I wonder if that's in anticipation for truck parking in the future. And also, there are 49 vehicle parking stalls. That seems to be quite a lot. Or do they plan to have a restaurant in there besides serving donuts and food that is the Dunkin' Donuts style food? So I really would like answers to those questions, because it seems that there might be some idea of expanding the truck parking, or maybe even have trucks washing there, which would be very, very detrimental to the environment because of the amount of water they use, and because of cleaning out the inside of a truck, whether it took a load of some kind of building material, or it had to clean out the raw meat that they were carrying and flushing that debris out of the trucks. Where does that go? Is that being considered? So once this starts, it doesn't stop. Once it starts, it gets to be more of a truck stop. Once this starts, the road on Dover gets widened. Once it starts, the heavy traffic from trucks is going to come here. And people have said it's a national drawing. Yes, this is exactly what will happen. And I believe that Homer and Glenn should be very, very careful what they approve, because they need to have all the statistics on this. They need to know what it does to their neighborhoods, their people, and their future. So this is a very strong and steady neighborhood. These people are very concerned. We're all concerned. This isn't just going to affect this small area. It's going to go past the very first. It's going to go across the street, which happens to be Lockport. It's territory. And pretty soon we're going to have a spot nobody wants to live in because of the truck traffic. And what happens to these people's property values? What happens to the school when they get children from unstable neighborhoods? This is not beneficial to the school. This goes much further than whether there are just trucks on this road, or whether the developer wants to have trucks there. I don't think we should go out. I understand that there's some diesel, there are trucks, small trucks, delivery trucks, and so forth. But those, as has been mentioned, those are small stalls. They are not fit for trucks. So, can we imagine a truck idling 24 hours because it has to stay there and has no other place to go? It's supposed to stay there until it gets another job. Excuse me, but this is premature development.
So, thank you for your points. I'm probably going to forget a few of them along the way. First off, a lot of what you brought up, good questions. A lot of them are policy questions, right? So the goal this evening was not to get into policy, it was to try to answer some questions more on a casual basis. So some of the points you brought up is not for me to try to give you an answer for. What I would say, a couple of them, there is so in the convenience store location, there is a proposed Dunkin' Donuts. They do have the ability for a small, I'll call it fast food type place. It's got to fit within that envelope, obviously. In other locations, they've had subways and things of that nature. So that kind of use, I'm sure, is something they'll try to attract. As far as truck parking on the site, physically, there's not. When you look at that site plan, there's not a number of locations for trucks to be able to just pull over and park. And I don't know if you penciled it out, but it's probably 2 or 3 stacking, in that truck aisle. Where those islands are, the vacuum islands, and I'm not here to sell their business, but there's a median that goes through. So I don't believe that you'd be able to get a truck into that area to park, as you brought up, and things of that nature. So there's the board obviously has the ability to turn it down. The board has the ability to approve it as is or approve it with recommendations. Those are policy decisions the board gets to make. So again, as I mentioned earlier, there's issues that as a community and as a region we have to deal with. And I completely get the frustration, I completely get the fear of what's coming next, and we have to deal with that sans what they're proposing. They only have so much control. They have a plan that they're trying to implement, and this is the process that they get to go through for that. So
why didn't they just admit it? It's strictly about profit. Because how much money are you gonna make off of a semi as compared to landscaping trucks? A semi takes how many gallons of gas as compared to a landscaping truck? So, you can say you're a good neighbor and everything else, but I know you're just in it for the profit. That's like everybody else, it's all about this.
Yeah, but so are you guys. We all have a job, we all
I'm
work.
retired.
You know, we're not trying to do the wrong thing by anyone.
Well, I'm all for somebody making a profit, but not when it's gonna come to the point to where you're gonna screw everybody around. Okay, I'm not into that. I don't care if he makes a profit, I don't care if he becomes a millionaire, makes me no difference. But when you're starting to screw with everybody's lives, that makes a little difference.
Well, I think.
I wouldn't do that. So he can call himself a good neighbor, why doesn't he put it in his neighborhood and see what his neighbors think of
You're
him?
using harsh terminology when you get done and say that you're screwing people around. It's a business, and obviously we're trying to do the right thing. We're sitting here talking to you people too. We're listening to your input. We're trying to reach the middle of the road here so that we can build the business as we build it and not have some impact adversely on you guys. We're not trying to come in here and burn the neighborhood down or anything of that nature at all, obviously. That's why we're here, trying to be a good neighbor.
Okay.
So, unless I'm forgetting something, I think we covered everything. We might not have answered everybody's questions. Go ahead.
I have a question, John. I did go to a couple of your gas stations, in fact, the one on Cedar and 6th. And I noticed when I was going south on Cedar, there are turning lanes to be able to get into the gas station. Now, whose responsibility would that be? Because Couger is only 2 lanes right now. You know what I'm talking about on Cedar and 6th? There's like 2 or 3 places you can actually turn into your gas station. It's a turn lane, because it is only 2 lanes. Who would take care of things like that?
Those are called driveway permits. So the plans get sent, this is under the state jurisdiction. So the plans get sent to IDOT, and IDOT has to issue permits for the driveways. So sometimes they give you full access, okay?
Both ways.
All right, sometimes they give you a right in, right out, okay? Or like at Cedar Road,
So they would have to
Cedar
prove all
Road.
these to your in and outs.
Right. That's right, it's reviewed by IDOT.
Yeah, because it seems like you only got one on 159 here, and like I said, we've only got 2 lanes here. If people are going to turn in there, it's like the one on Cedar, you have 2. If you're coming south, subdivision here, we only have 1 lane going this way, 1 lane going that way. You're going to turn into the gas station like the one at Cedar, like a whole other lane to turn in.
But what the permit processing does is the state would rework, just for example, would rework the striping, the shoulders, it might widen this
Well,
out.
that's what I'm
put a
wondering,
turn lane
to
in.
see if it would
Deceleration.
widen that intersection.
That is, given the state, to go through the permitting process to design it for what they give us. Okay, they generally don't give full access up by the corner. You need to be.
Because yeah, that first one is like, close, when you turn.
Well, this, yeah, this here would be a lot. They'll issue a permit for that. They probably wouldn't issue a full access to,
But I noticed like a lot of the speed limits on that one, up to one in Tinley, are like 55 miles an hour in both directions.
That's a factor of how much deceleration.
But I didn't notice the truck problems past that, bad doors, and I noticed that they already.
both have trucks.
Right, but no side streets that said no trucks. You know, they can't go either way.
We fuel trucks at both locations.
Right.
And we have no truck issues.
Right, but you also don't have any signs in that area that says that trucks can't go down any of those streets. like Couger.
Those aren't our signs.
Right, I know, but I'm just saying that
Those are truck
this
routes.
is, now you've got,
But they're on Harlem Avenue. You
I didn't go to that.
go to the one on Harlem Avenue, they got signs, don't go down the street.
194, 195.
Okay, I didn't go to all of them, like I said, I was trying to look and see entrances, exits, truck signs and stuff like that, so the way our little Couger is, I didn't know.
Yeah, so that portion of Couger where they're proposing is part of the state right of way. It's once you get beyond that, once you go further north, it turns into the truck route.
Right, I mean, you know, but I just thought
Right.
the intersection obviously had to be widened.
Actually, I think that the way it is, or the way it's going to be widened is part of the state improvements. So anything they do, I don't think is going to be above and beyond that. And those are different areas that you've mentioned. They're, you know, whether it's a state road or a county road and all that, each different jurisdiction will look at it for its own specific, you know, traffic flow and things of that nature. So.
So, I mean, that's something to think about, you know.
Yeah, so the state's going to review all three of those locations because all three of those are on the state road. So they have jurisdiction over what they would give and how they go through the permitting
And if
process.
they need turn lanes.
Right, so there's actually, you know, so it's hard to picture now because it's not in. There's actually going to be a turn lane. So if you're on 159th Street and you're going west, there's going to be a turn lane to turn onto Couger, right? And so that's part of the reason the state.
Yeah, I think we already have.
Yeah, so it actually, yeah, and then a non-mountable median, that's another reason the state's gonna have a non-mountable median up to a certain point, so they couldn't physically get an access across 151st or 59 at that location. So that's why they would only consider normally a right in, right out. And similar to the other one, you know, the first exit on Couger is too close to the road, right in, right out. The second one's further away. They probably could get a full access, but because of the truck issues, not a perfect solution, but we've got them directing traffic back to 159th Street off their site. So again, I know we probably didn't satisfy everybody's concerns. I know there's probably still lingering questions. We appreciate you coming in. We appreciate the feedback. We totally understand the nervousness, the concerns, the fear, the nothing's changed to date kind of setup. You know, we as government have to do the enforcement, and that will take time. That's changing behavior, and you know, the mayor was committed to try to step up what we've got control over on Couger through Will County. Like I said, we're meeting with Lockport to see what we can do in a joint manner to kick it up, because there are more of these coming, and so we'll have to deal with those issues regardless of this development. So, you know, if I try to separate the two, it's only because when the board is talking about it, they're talking about this specific development, not a development that's a mile away. And, you know, that's a separate issue. They still have to deal with it, but when they're discussing it a couple weeks from now, that's how they've got to do it. So I try not to get into too many policy things when I talk. Hopefully I stay that way and just try to answer it as factually as I know it. But a lot of questions that were asked were a little bit more, you know, what if or policy driven. I can't get into that because you know, A, I'm not building it, and B, I don't vote on it. So, sir.
In 2001, we incorporated it for just this reason. The people were tired of having developers tell them, this is what you're going to get. The basic situation we have here is we, along with people in Lockport that I asked to come here tonight, said, please speak up and tell them you're speaking to Lockport as well. There was an alderman that lost his seat because of Prologis. The whole issue here is keep those stupid trucks off of the road. That's what we're covering. So anything and everything that's a magnet for those trucks, we would just as soon see go away. You guys want to put up a speedway or whatever it is you want to have, sell gas and sell donuts. No one's going to have any problem with that. But anything and everything, especially along Couger, that has truck related to it, is a negative. And for us, the next big date is June 14th. What are we supposed to do? Your government, that's fine. These guys are businessmen. The ball is now on the board's court. What do we need to do if we are so inclined that we do not want to see trucks? We don't care if they build car washes and all of that other stuff. But to get trucks off of Couger, what do we have to do? And also, when the 14th comes up, can the board tell them, we like part of your project, but you need to remove the truck portion of it if you want to move forward? Can that be suggested to them?
Well, good question. Anything can be suggested to them, and I think, through these various meetings, obviously that idea is out there. The litany of special uses, one of the special uses is a special use permit for the gas station, right? Our codes don't differentiate between truck fueling versus automobile fueling, okay? The board has the prerogative of adding or approving and denying as is, adding conditions. I don't want to speak for the board on what they would or would not do. What I would say is that they need to go through and make a logical decision on whether they want to approve it or not approve it. And so it meets the merits of the process. And you're getting into policy questions, so as a staff member, I try not to get into policy related hypotheticals, because it puts me in a bad spot and puts the board members in a bad spot. But those are things that they theoretically can consider. So, yeah. Usually with these things, it's not an all or nothing. Usually it's what can you do to make it better? What can you do to change it? Because they would have to come up, if it was me, I'd have to come up with a reason on why I wouldn't want X, whatever that might be. Whether it's, I don't want, X number of, vacuum cleaners, or I don't like Dunkin' Donuts because I shop at, Starbucks or whatever. But I mean, they got to come up with a logical reason for them to accept something or to deny something. And try not to get into specifics because I don't want to lead it one way or another. But if that makes sense.
You're put in a rather tough position, because for you to be able to say to them, well, I think the community does not want congestion. I think the community is not happy with trucking. That would be guesses on your part. The long-term solution to this may be to have a referendum at some particular point. What are your feelings on what we should be doing? I understand what you're talking about with Harlem. You're dealing with a different animal, if you will. We incorporated to try to stop this here. That's exactly what it is. As far as I'm concerned, you can take this and move it west on 159th Street. We'd be perfectly happy. Keep the truck out. It's that simple.
Is anybody from the board going to hear any of our concerns, or is this just kind of like a BITCH session? I mean,
well, what I would say is there's two current board members still there. There was one earlier. I think a lot of the concerns that were brought up tonight, maybe not in this much detail, were brought up at past board meetings. So I think the general concepts have been brought up. A lot of what we were trying to get out tonight is my goal was to try to take some points that, let's say it's drainage or some other points that maybe we could try to answer some of those and get down to a couple specific points.
So more or less, though, all we're really doing is complaining our concerns to everybody, and what we're saying, nothing's going to happen. Because my main concern is drainage. That's all it is. I mean, who on the board is going to know our concerns about flooding, drainage? That's my major Oh, sorry.
If I summarize it wrong, I apologize. There was one trustee here earlier who left in the middle of the meeting and heard part of it. We still have two trustees here, right?
Who are they?
Keith Graves right behind you. Keith and Sharon Sweet. So they're going to focus on. We're taking notes as well. So we're going to share. Obviously, we're going to talk to all the board members and say, okay, here's what the main issues were. I might have summarized that the drainage is not as big of a concern as the truck issues, because that's what I've heard.
The drainage is a bigger concern than the truck issue.
Okay.
For, as a resident.
It's all.
I mean, the truck issue is important, but the drainage, the flooding is.
Okay. So what I would suggest is, if you wouldn't mind, if it's still a concern, we can go back to that drawing. We can try to repeat what we said, maybe try to answer any questions. But I mean, on the drainage, honestly, I think, does the community have drainage and flooding issues in certain areas? Yes, absolutely.
Has anybody seen that creek in a video? Or I have a video. I have to find it of that creek at that last 100-year rain. I mean, it's bad.
A lot of the elected officials have seen that and know of those issues. I think.
But having seen it, I mean, you can't experience that
couldn't
creek
tell you.
unless
I
you've
just got
seen it.
taken out of a floodplain.
Yeah.
Okay, with FEMA. I don't
Sure.
want to be put back in.
Yeah. Did they put you in a floodplain
Yeah,
about 10,
originally
15
I
years
was,
ago?
but I
You
went
weren't,
with
and they put you
FEMA.
back in?
Yeah, and I got taken out of it because there's no possible way I said I could reach my house, but that's my concern with all of this.
What it probably happened on is that as FEMA got in the early 2000s, recalculated floodplains and across the region. I was in Tinley Park, they put hundreds of homes that were never in floodplain. And so that's a completely different issue. Floodplain and flooding, you know, it sounds like, but it's a completely, they're separate issues. You know, so again, I just try to simplify it because I'm not an engineer. I know enough to be dangerous. You know, what you have to trust is that the site is engineered, that it's got more capacity of storage with a development, forget what type of development, with a development than it does currently now. Okay, so any developer would have to make it better. They're gonna have to store more water on the site. Will that solve Fitterman Creek or the other issues that regionally we have? No. Will it adversely affect that and make that worse? No. Now, that's assuming it's designed right, it's reviewed right, it's built right, it's maintained long-term. All of those things, just like anything, would come into play. But to me, and I don't mean to diminish your concerns, but the flooding, I think, is, you got to separate the concerns with Fitterman Creek. That's a bigger regional thing that we're dealing with in multiple ways. But this specific one, you know, this won't cause more problems in that specific area, right?
You know, I think everybody here is a realist. We know there's going to be development. We know there's going to be things that are going to impact us personally, but there are things we can keep control of. And one of those is something like this, where it's going to directly impact our community. And I think everybody's with consensus. I mean, the truck traffic is a huge issue. Solve it. Do your part by just taking the truck lanes out. Give them a spot to turn around if they come down the wrong way, but just take the truck refueling out, and then promise not to open until you guys have your utilities in.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm concerned about my well too. So, I mean, I've lived out here my whole life. I've seen wells go dry when people dig deeper wells. You know, and I don't know how deep your well is going to be. I don't know how much water a gas station uses just on, not even a car wash. I mean, you're going to have food in there too, so you're going to have Dunkin' Donuts using water, you're washing utensils, washing fryers out. If you have a Subway in there, you're going to have people in the gas station using the facility. So I have no idea how much water a gas station uses. I would imagine quite a bit more than a residential home.
a month is what he said last time.
Okay.
How many?
2,000 gallons a month, I wrote it down.
That had to do with the car wash.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It's probably a lot more than a 5-person household. So that's a concern to me also. So
We've operated gas stations and gas station car wash on wells.
around a residential community?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe that's good for them, but again, that's my concern. And whether it's.
But it's another thing that we're not going to do to take a chance of hurting the neighbor.
Good, great.
It's not engineered right. You know,
Yeah.
there's professional people that do these things.
Oh, no, like I said, there's a subdivision up off Kingery Road where there was a development put above them, and the people flooded out constantly. And it was done within code, within floodplains, and I know, because I know the people who live there. And when they went back to get retribution, they couldn't. So, and you guys are doing everything you're supposed to do, but you just said that they redid all these compensatory storage rules for a reason, because people were flooding, because the rules they had in place. So what happens when these rules that are in place aren't good enough for what we have now? So again, my concern is the truck lanes. Get rid of the truck refueling, and don't open until you have utilities. You can control that. It's simple. You don't have utilities, obviously you don't want to open. So, but that's just how I feel. So.
And it's up to our elected officials to protect us.
Well, I'm not Homer Glen. I'm Homer Township.
Well,
so we're not part of the city.
One day.
No, we won't. We won't.
Anyways, I appreciate the time, and we'll keep going. If there's other questions that you have, and you didn't ask them, just give us a call. We'll try to answer them as best as we can. We appreciate you coming out. This is a lot easier to have this kind of dialogue like this than standing up the podium talking at the board, because you probably have all asked the same questions that you'll probably bring up on that meeting as well. And feel free, it's a public meeting. But a lot of these, it's easier to answer these in this kind of format. So we appreciate you coming. Margaret?
We went over lighting very quickly, and that is an issue. And it can be an issue, it doesn't have to be an issue. But as far as this, there wasn't any, I tried to see the small print on the page.
Couldn't read that photometric plan, a little 6-inch.
Well, the chart there, I didn't see anything about what the color of the lights would be. And that's really, that's really important. So
You've
you
got
tell me what the
their lighting plan went through. I think we showed it to Sharon, but the lighting plan did go through our consultant, and they did get a letter saying it meets our lighting plan. I'm not an expert in lighting code. I want to say it's probably 3,000 Kelvin, if I'm using the right terminology.
What CCT were they using? Both. If they're using LED lighting, what is the correlated color temperature reading that they were using?
I believe it's 3,000 Kelvin. I don't have that.
That's our ordinance.
Right. And so all I know is that they're not asking for any variances, and it's meeting our dark sky lighting requirement. So I'm simplifying it just because I don't have that. I don't have the plan memorized, and I don't have our code memorized to that detail. But that was something that they cleared up in the beginning.
If you've seen CMAP, excuse me, but the Chicago Metropolitan Area Planning, something like that, has shown that in 2004, or I don't know what exact year that is, but there are a lot of truck routes out there. And this is what they anticipate. And then as far as the Will County Economic Development Commission, if that's the title of that one, it seems that they are pushing, they've had their open houses and so forth, and they are pushing for trucks. They're pushing for truck routes for planning. And one person that was at the meeting had said that Mr. Grueling is saying that there's a lot of open land out here. And what does that anticipate? What does that tell you?
Sure.
That they want to have more trucks out here.
Will County does have I think that's a joint project between Will County Planning and then the Will County CED, Center for Economic Development. And I might not use the right term, but they've got something, I think it's a 2040 freight review. And so what they're doing is looking at the community, or the county as a whole, projecting into the future to say, what do we think, how do we blend in the developments that are occurring specifically in this area with distribution and intermodal and all the other things that are scattered throughout the county. And they're looking at areas that either have those types of systems or maybe are projected to have those types of systems.
Well, what
And,
they're saying
and,
is that,
and how to deal with
in
those. How
Mulder
to,
Township, there's a lot of land here, like it's a no man's land. We know that that's not true. They're implying that this is the place for doing some more business with trucking. And they're also promoting friendly community trucking. Anybody here know what that means?
I think what they're trying to figure out is, and there's probably open, available land to develop throughout the county. And I think what they're trying to figure out is how to blend in distribution, intermodal, whatever, those kinds of systems. And then if they build them, how do they get the traffic in and out? I think that's generically what they're looking at. And, you know, if you're obviously very familiar with Homer Glenn's comprehensive plan and our zoning, that's not something we are trying to attract. That's something that, you know, we'd rather have commercial. That's not, you know, we have to deal with it if it's adjacent to us, but that's not something that we're out there promoting. There's other communities that have intermodal facilities and distribution facilities, and the county's got a plan, you know, for roads that feed into those. Are they the right capacity and future growth? So that's kind of what that study's about.
You are correct. We're not that kind of community, nor do we want to be that kind of community. And as Randy Juris had said, we fought this kind of thing before we were before we were incorporated, and didn't have the right to fight, if we might say that, and didn't have any right to an opinion that anyone would listen to. Now we have that right, and I think that we should use it. And if Couger Road, if this truck traffic isn't stopped in Couger, and if this plan here is approved with truck servicing, what will happen is the Couger Road will become an official truck route. Now, this is not something that is in our comprehensive plan, nor is this the kind of community that we want to become. But it will be contagious, and it will affect everybody in Homer Glen.
What I've seen on that 2020 plan is purely conceptual. This area of Couger is not anywhere in their plan. Now, obviously, Gauger's a long road, so there might be sections, one way or the other, that they might have other improvements. Not according to the plan that I saw.
That's what's going to happen, because this plan for servicing trucks is going to be the first step. The second step is going to be the Couger Road. It could even be a fourth lane. It's going to be accommodating the heavy trucks that are on there, because it seems to be a natural route and it's not stopped. And it will be an official route. Right now, it's an unofficial truck route.
Again, thank you for coming out, and we appreciate your time. Thank you for the development for coming out. Thank you.